If you guys remember from our last video, we went through our tent out there to get preparations ready for our next build. But I did also want to go through all that stuff because I wanted to go through and find my canning jars, because I mentioned in our last video that I was going to be putting these to very good use, and that day has come. I need to put these to use. As you guys know, I've been harvesting things from the garden now for probably the last, I would say, month or so. I need to process some of my stuff, and I got a lot of things to do in the kitchen today. So I say, let's get it. So the first thing I think I'm gonna start with preserving right now is going to be my pickles. They take probably the longest because I do a little bit something special to the pickles. In the last couple of years that I've been growing cucumbers and processing and making pickles, I have learned a thing or two of how to keep them nice and crisp and fresh tasting. It's just so much better the way doing it this way. Look at the amount of pickles I have right now. There are so many pickles. This is actually like my second batch, as I mentioned before. This is the second batch that I have actually gotten. The first batch that I processed, I had about it was like a little over 4 pounds. It was like 4.5 pounds of cucumbers. And I actually got 4 jars of sweet pickled relish. I'm curious to see how many pounds of cucumbers I have right here. I bet you it's roughly about the same amount. That's about how full that bag was, but let's find out. Wow, guys, 6 pounds, 2.4 ounces. That is way more than I had the last time. Let's see, last time, like I mentioned, it was like 4.5 pounds. So total so far, I have harvested 10 pounds of cucumbers out of my garden. That is insane. I'm just blown away by that, especially because as I've updated you guys before, I am struggling a little bit with my cucumber plants. I only have a couple out there that are actually thriving and doing well. And if they were to die today, not that they will, they're doing well now. If they were to die and shrivel up and not produce any more cucumbers, I will not complain because that is a good amount of cucumbers. Something I'm also doing that's a little bit different than I did last year, if you guys notice, I'm actually weighing my produce that I'm getting from the garden. I do want to kind of keep tabs of how much stuff I'm actually getting from there, how much pounds. When my tomatoes finally get ripe and I can actually start picking those and getting ready to process those, I can't wait to weigh those because that's what I'm really looking forward to see is exactly how many pounds of tomatoes I'm gonna get this year. All right, I got those all cut up. Didn't really take that long to cut that many cucumbers, but I had to get 2 bowls out because I was trying to fill them in this big one, but it was just way overfilled. So I had to get a second bowl out. So I think I'm gonna get quite a few jars of pickles out of this. So I have found before making actual pickles, it's good to kind of let them sit in this pickling and canning salt for, I like to do it for about 2 hours, but the longer the better. I found that if you let these soak before you actually make the pickles or relish or anything like that, it helps keep them nice and crisp longer. They don't get all like soggy, and it just adds a really good texture to the pickles or your relish. I used that in the relish the last time I made relish. Perfect. My last year I made bread and butter pickles. I made them the same way. We opened up a jar like 6 months after the fact I made them, and they were still kind of crispy. They weren't really soggy. The flavor was good. So I have found that this technique works very well when it comes to making pickles. So for the mixture. It's just, I'm gonna add a half a cup of this salt to 1 gallon of just plain water. Dump it into the bowl, let them soak for a couple hours. Drain the water, kind of rinse them off, and then you gotta kind of like towel dry them or let them sit out and kind of dry a little bit before you can make them. But I have to make a little bit more than that because I have a little bit more than I was expecting to. So I think I'm gonna do like 1.5 gallons. So for this pickling canning salt solution, I'm going to be making just 1/2 gallon of, this is filtered water. And I'm gonna do 1/4 cup of this pickling salt, and you mix it up in here till it's dissolved, and then you dump it into these bowls, and then you let them sit for 2 hours or so. So for some of you that may know or may not know, my Instapot is probably one of my favorite kitchen appliances. I use it, I would say, at least 2 or 3 times a week. And definitely using it for spaghetti makes it super convenient because not only can I make spaghetti in here, I can also cook the meat in one pan. I don't have to cook it on the stove. And it just eliminates so many dirty dishes. For my spaghetti, I like to use ground beef and sausage, and actually, I have some Robertson Bellyaker sausage right here, so this just makes it a whole other notch on the spaghetti using farm fresh ground pork, ground sausage. Not much longer, hopefully, guys, and I won't be using store-bought canned diced tomatoes and tomato sauce, because I have so many tomatoes out there growing, and I have big plans to preserve them and make my own spaghetti sauce with them, my own marinara sauce, diced tomatoes. So hopefully I get enough tomatoes out there to do all that, because I don't want to buy these anymore. And using like fresh tomatoes, it just adds a totally different flavor to tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce. It just changes the whole flavor. If you get what I'm saying, with real tomatoes, or, you know, farm or garden fresh tomatoes, I should say. So soon that will be changing, hopefully. So if you guys remember also too, on the last video, we stopped by the bin store and got this awesome spice rack, and I have actually put it to use. I came home that day and put all my spices in there, kind of cleaned out and reorganized my spice cabinet there. It was jam-packed full of spices. I had a lot of spices, but a little bit more organized, a lot more neater. It is really nice to actually have like the spices right next to the stove. I can actually see what I got instead of like moving things around trying to figure out where this spice is that I need. So that was a really good find, and that was all Anthony that found that. It's been a little bit, and I got the kitchen back in order and ready for my next phase, which is making my pickles. I cleaned out all those jars really good. I got them sitting in the water. Got it warming up right now. I just turned it on, so it's gonna take a little bit for it to get warm. These have been soaking pretty much, I would say, for almost 2 hours. I'm gonna give them a little bit longer because this takes a little while to get warm. Plus, I still gotta make my pickle brine solution for the jars, but I am ready for all of that to start happening. Well, I'll say this, guys. It may not look very hot out there, but I promise you it is very hot. It is supposed to be close to like 100 degrees today, so I think I picked a perfect day to come in here and make some pickles, because man, looks can be deceiving, right guys? I got Mora and Lillian in here. Lillian's kicking some butt, huh, Lillian? She gets mighty fierce with Mora. I drained out 1 bowl of my cucumbers, and it's very important during this step that you really make sure that the cucumber slices or sliced or however you're doing it are very dry. So right now I have them all just kind of sitting in a bowl, and I layered it with some paper towels in between. So hopefully that will get out some of the moisture. I'm gonna let these sit out while I do the same exact thing to the big bowl. This is an all-new Ball book of canning and preserving. And I will tell you what, guys, this book is a very, very good canning book. It has a lot of good recipes in here. It's got a lot of good information about canning in here. So I will be sure to leave a link for this book. It is on Amazon in this video below. If you guys are curious, maybe getting it, looking into it. So all my jars are just regular mouth ones. I don't have any wide mouth jars. So I got 1, 2. I'm gonna use my seals and rings here. I have like a whole box of seals down there. 1, I don't have rings. I'm somewhere along the way I've lost all my rings. But 2, they're not like a name brand. They're kind of like an off brand. And every time I use them, at least 1, if not 2 jars do not seal properly, and it ends up kind of being a waste. So I have found that using actual like name brand seals and rings and stuff is way better than, I've never had a fail seal with one of these Ball seals. So just a little advice. Little helpful tip from me to you. Okay, got my seals going. What I think I'm gonna do is actually add like 1 teaspoon of the pickling spice to each jar, just to kind of give it more of that dill flavor, and maybe throw in a little bit of dill weed in there. You know, that's one herb I should actually grow, is some dill weed. That way when I do make my own pickles, I could use like fresh dill weed. I think that would be the way to go. The recipe says that it makes 6 pint jars of pickles, but we're gonna test that. I actually got 7 ready just in case, but let's just hope. Now, here comes the fun part. I got 1 jar packed. I will pour some of that liquid in there and kind of get some of the air bubbles out and maybe pack a few more. But man, I'm telling you guys, I kind of just went through like half this bowl already, and I got 1 jar, so I might have like way more than I need. And also too, I forgot to throw the spices at the bottom of the jar. That's all right. At least I caught it before I got too far ahead. I ended up getting 4 jars, which, you know what, that's not bad. I'll take that. So what did I have? 6 pounds of cucumbers, 4 jars of pickles, sliced pickles. It's pretty good. I'll take that. I'd say that's a good win out of the garden. Well, I lucked out. I had just the right amount of brine, actually a little extra, to where if I had an extra jar, I could have done it. But I had enough, and my pot is ready to go. So I'm gonna finish taking care of these. Gotta make sure you clean the rims on these so it does seal properly, because that would not be fun. I've already experienced what it's like not to seal, and I don't like that. These are hot. I will say, guys, those are some pretty looking jars. They're in there. It's boiling, so I'm gonna actually turn this down a little bit. And I'm gonna let those sit in a water bath canning, which is really nice about pickles. Is it's just water bath, no pressure canning involved. And I'm gonna let those go for about 10 minutes, guys. I'm gonna let those sit there and cool off. And as I mentioned, I have one more thing I'd like to do, and whoa, my green beans. Now, this is actually my second, I guess, batch of green beans. I have actually processed other green beans, and I had roughly, I think it was just a little over 3 pounds of those, and I actually got 3 jars of green beans, which I have not tried to eat them yet, but I'm super excited that I have them. So hopefully, I just weighed these. I got almost 2 pounds of green beans right here. So I'm hoping that I'll have enough to at least do 2 jars this go around. I just harvested a bunch this morning out there, and I'll tell you what, guys, there is a bunch more flowers out there, so I'm sure this won't be the last of the green beans I'm gonna get. Got those out. They look really pretty. They haven't done the famous pop yet, but I know that's coming soon. I just pulled them out. But I got everything else going. I got if you guys have never had green beans with some chicken broth, it is delicious with chicken broth. I'll tell you guys, fresh and even canned green beans, it works very well. There we go. 2 jars of green beans are inside there. Now comes the long task of waiting for this thing to get to the pressure, get the pounds it needs, and then I can start processing it. There's that sweet sound you want to hear when you are pressure canning. So I got it up to pressure. It's good to go. Now I just got to let it sit here for 30 minutes and process. So. Got the bread going. I think I had a great day in the kitchen. I got a lot of canning done. I got dinner made. I mean, I was on top of it today. But I gotta get out there and water the garden. As you guys know, as I mentioned, it was a very hot day. We had a high of 100 today, so I need to get out there and water. Yeah, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished today.